The cave was cold and dark. The walls on both sides were narrow and claustrophobic, and looked like they could collapse at any given moment. A small child was sat quietly inside with an adult who looked to be the boy's father. The child was playing with what looked like a small piece of wood shaped like a bird, and two small rocks that could be used to represent people. One is round while the other is oval shaped. He holds the bird in the air and flies it over the two small rocks like a predator flying over its prey, deciding which one it would like to devour. Eventually, the predator decides on the taller one and swoops down, crashing into it, knocking it over. "Hey, you ready to go?" His father asks him softly, making sure he keeps his voice down. The child says nothing, but his silence speaks volumes. The father understands his child's anxiety. "We can't stay here forever. We gotta get back home." The child knows this, but doesn't want to hear it. The father sighs and looks around for some inspiration or an idea to help his son find the courage to make it through the night. Naturally, he doesn't find any. He holds out his hand. "If you want, you can close your eyes, but you have to do exactly as I say, alright?" The child grabs his father's hand, and then slowly, they make their way out of the cave. Outside there is a forest that stretches out for miles in every direction. The two of them look small and insignificant within the woods. It's nighttime and the moon is out. It's a beautiful night. The father guides his son down a steep cliffside. They slowly make their way down a spiraling hill. At the bottom are hundreds of trees that go further than one could see, especially at this time of night. The child closes his eyes and squeezes his father's hand tightly. They venture deeper into the dark, foreboding woods. The father walks slowly with as much caution as possible to make sure they don't make any missteps or mistakes. The child walks slowly with an inconsistent walking pattern as he feels small and vulnerable, even with his father with him. They walk for what feels like hours. The father puts his hand out so he can find a tree in the darkness. He finds one and puts his back to it so he can sit down. "Come, sit down," the father whispers quietly to the point where it's almost inaudible. The child sits down where he stood. The father brings him closer so that he's against the tree as well. The father kisses his son on the forehead and holds him to calm him down, and himself. The son keeps his eyes closed. They sit for a few minutes with the occasional sound of leaves blowing in the wind. The father looks like he's remembering things from a time that was a lot better than this. After a while, he puts his hand against the tree to help himself up again. Then he helps get up so they can continue on their way. While the two continue on their way, the child trips on a big branch. On doing so, he falls over and opens his eyes. As the child's eyes are exposed to the darkness around him, he begins to panic, breathing frantically. The father tends to him immediately. "Shh, it's alright, it's alright." The child continues to panic. The father holds his son. From nearby, the sound of a heavy breeze can be heard. "Buddy, I need you to calm down, please." His father is trying to be patient, but he is desperate. The son closes his eyes again, which helps him calm down. After a few more seconds, he's relieved enough to continue. "Thank you," the father says as he stands up. As he does so, he's knocked over and grabbed by a large white creature who takes him away without time for a reaction. The child is left on his own, curled up in a ball. He doesn't know where his father is and hopes that he'll come back. He looks small. It would be easy for a predator to miss him due to his size. The child lies in the forest for what feels like an eternity. He wakes up with the hopes that his father was back to take him. He was not. He panics again, not knowing what to do. He cries quietly. From now, he's lying, and all the sticks and branches around him, he looks like a fragile little chick in a nest. The sound of birds in the distance echo throughout the seemingly endless forest. The child is comforted by the noise. This helps him to build up the courage to continue on. The child wanders through the woods, moving in the direction he was facing. His father had told him not to deviate from the path, as that's how you get lost. After walking and crawling for about a mile, he found himself by a burrow. He makes his way inside only to be greeted by a colony of people he appeared to recognize. Someone rushes over to him and sits him down by one of the walls of the barrow. They ask him if he's okay and whether he's hurt or not. The child shakes his head. Some time passes with the child finally being left alone, left only with the company of the events that had recently transpired. The events that shall stay with him for the rest of his life.